What's going on? You're here with Nate28 and this is Crossbeats Production. So I want to do a video on how I created this beat. The basics first off, I just wanted to show you guys how I created the sample for the beat, and I'm going to take you through an entire kind of mixing and behind the scenes of the beat as well. But the basics of the beat started from a sample that I made myself, and it wasn't really that hard to do it, and I want to show you guys how I did it and give you guys inspiration and ideas that you can come up with your own stuff as well. So basically it came from a sample that I played in the Rhodes Piano, which I'll play for you in a second, and also another part of the instruments in the loops that I sort of dug through. So I worked around a loop. I found this kind of acoustic loop. It sounds kind of like a tambourine slash shaker, and I'll just play that to you now. So first off, I'll just get that loop that I have here, unmute it, and just zoom in a bit. So basically this is the loop here, so I'll just play it from scratch here, solo that out, and just play that. So originally that loop was in tune of 0, so transposed to 0. I just transposed it down 4 semitones, and this is what it first sounded like. So then I just decided, okay, if I transpose it down, it'll give it a bit more of a slower vibe, and kind of it sounds more of an older sample style type thing going on with that. That's pretty much all I did, apart from adding some reverb to it, which you can see here on the FX send. That adds reverb, it sends to an FX send, and that's going through this reverb here, which is the RC48 by Native Instruments. So it just gives it a bit more of that echo sound, otherwise it would have sounded just like this. Kind of a dry sample, so I just added some of that extra reverb. So as you can hear, that's pretty much how that worked. So once I had that kind of sound going on, and I pulled that out of my sample library here, which is, I'm sure this sample is actually out of a sample library within Studio One, so you could go back and replicate this if you want to. Anyway, the next thing I did then was this Rhodes Piano here. So Rhodes keys I played, and I'll just show you the keys that I played out. So basically I fiddled around with that sample, heard the kind of sample sounded like it was in the key of A sharp. How I figured that out was basically just playing the keys on this Rhodes Piano, so I just kind of played those out. I'll just unmute that. So A sharp sounded like the right kind of key that I heard. So then I decided, okay, I'll put this in A sharp natural minor, and I selected this onto, so it actually just scale quantizes everything that I play into this. Then I basically just kind of messed around with the keys until I had something that sounded kind of like what I wanted, and I'll just play this sample connected to the actual instrumental part there. So that's pretty much how it sounded with the sample and the Rhodes keys together. So I decided to get a really old classic kind of sound, what I would do is throw vinyl onto it. I did that later on, and I'll just show you exactly how I did it. But first off, I bounced these two together so they were a combined sound. The way that you do that, basically, if you don't already know, is go to Event. If you go down to Mix Selection, if you combine the two, obviously I'll mix it down into one selection, and it will bounce it into a new track. So when I got the new track, this is basically what it sounded like. I'll just mute this again so I don't get both the sounds. And it ended up sounding like this with some effects on it. So first off, actually I'll take the effects off so you guys can hear that. So let's play. So how I got it kind of that slowish kind of sound, again I transposed it, I've bounced it now, but I transposed it down by 12 semitones, so I transposed it by 12, so that's an entire octave basically. Oh, a bit more than an octave actually. So that's kind of the sound, as you can hear. Then we just go down, because I've already bounced it, obviously I don't need to, so it's set to 0. So this is the tone of the Rhodes. So I bounced that on its own so I could use that in the beat and kind of separate some stuff as well. And then this is the final mix down section with both of them together, so I'll just play that to you. Awesome. So that was the sample. So I created that sample myself. I'll show you the things that I did with the two plugins that you guys can access. So one is vinyl. Vinyl basically allows you to set kind of that vintage sound. So I set it to 1950s, which you can see here. It's set to 1950s. That pretty much removes most of the low end out because, as you would be aware, in the 50s, obviously that was all vinyl back then, and there wasn't a whole lot of low end being played on the vinyl. So 1950s gave me the right kind of sound I was after. I left it on this warp model here down at the bottom. It has different obviously options there, but I left it on the bottom. And the other thing I put on was some chorus. So in the end, it kind of gave me some sound like this. So as you can hear, the low end's gone and it sounds a bit phasey, and that's kind of the sound I was going for. So once I got those two samples kind of lined up, obviously the one without the maracas and I guess the kick or whatever was in that sample there, that's one without it, so just the Rhodes on its own, and then isolated with the Rhodes and the actual other acoustic instruments. So again, I pitched that down so it made the exact same sound as the other Rhodes keys, so I had both those samples to play with. So that's how I created the samples for this track. Now, the entire track, basically, I'll just play this to you now. So I'll play a section of it so you can hear it, and let me just play it to you now. So pretty much the drums are what adds the flavor to the track. I don't know if you guys can kind of pick it, but the drums kind of sounded a little bit like the Amen break. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a break from the 60s, which a lot of people would know about if you've done any kind of research for breaks or any of that stuff back in the 60s. That was the most probably used popular break that you'd ever hear. It's not exactly the same as the break. If I just play the drums to you separately, you'll hear it's kind of different, but similar kind of sound. It's like slowed down a little bit and same kind of vibe to it though, but it just gives that kind of real kind of old school kind of vibe that you get. So that's the basis of the beat. The other part of this is obviously the bass, which I've used again, this plugin, which I seem to love to use. It's called the Razor. The setting is, as you can see there, and I've just done a little bit of mixing around with that just to get it to sit right. I set on some EQ and a few other things there. I will do a breakdown of the full mix of this so you guys can see that, but I just wanted to show you guys some inspirational stuff so you would kind of get some ideas of your own, go out and create, and just come up with some new kind of cool stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.